There's no reason why that couldn't be your story.
You don't have an expiration date.
I love that.
The actual pages. Like, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
This is the Authors and Agents podcast. Falon, I'm super excited to have you back on the podcast and highlighting you and just you this time. It's super exciting because you've had lots going on since we talked to you last. So you have your third book coming out, Right on Cue. Can you tell me a little bit about that one?
Yeah, and I haven't practiced this one very much yet, so I feel like it's very long-winded, but I'll do my best.
Don't worry about it.
To keep it tight. So Right on Cue, in a nutshell, is about two actors who don't like each other, who have to film a romantic comedy together.
Perfect.
And they have a little bit of history from back in like their teenage years, and they basically come together, and their relationship is so contentious that it really affects filming in the beginning, because they just like can't get over themselves and pretend to like each other. But they do have this very amazing sexual chemistry. And so when that part comes to play a little bit more, then things start to work themselves out.
I love it. Don't you just love when, you can feel the fire, but they're just butting heads and you're like, this is, I mean, we all know what's going to happen.
I live for that.
Yes, that is the best.
Yes.
Well, this is so exciting. So I know that you've shared a little bit about your journey before on a podcast before, but give us a little brief overview, how you got to this point, your journey through publishing.
Yeah, I think the last time we talked, I had just finished Pitch Wars and I had just signed with my agent, and we were chatting before we started recording. I think we were like right on the cusp of the pandemic, which really changed a lot for me in terms of publishing, because my Pitch Wars book, which, I worked on for months and loved so dearly, went on submission to publishers the first week of March in 2020. So basically the worst timing in the history of the world.
Yeah.
And so obviously not much happened with that one, just because, publishing completely shut down like a week later. New York obviously was like in a huge crisis mode from that point on. So that one didn't sell, and it was just like so hugely disappointing because so much of it felt just like out of my control and just like bad circumstances. But the upside of that is that while I was suffering on submission, I sat down and I wrote Lease on Love. And so I wrote that I think I started it in like June of 2020. And it was just like a lovely little escape from everything that was awful in the world at that moment. And I wrote it really quickly. It just like all sort of came together in my head. And so we ended up taking that book out in like early 2021. And it sold in about like a week. It was super
That's
fast.
Awesome.
So I had like two completely opposite submission experiences. One where it just totally died and nothing happened. And then, the reverse where it was just like so fast that I couldn't really wrap my head around what was happening.
Oh my goodness. I think you deserved the second one after going through the first one though.
It felt good. I was like, oh, this is way easier.
Yes, I want this kind of journey for the rest of the time, please.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, definitely a tumultuous thing to go through. And, Pitch Wars isn't around anymore, but such a great opportunity. And even though that book died on submission, I know that you learned so much, through that process that was, beneficial to who you are now as a writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would your maybe like top tip be for authors who are querying, knowing that those sorts of programs don't really exist now, like looking back and with your experience, what would you tell them?
Yeah, it's so hard because I always want to be as helpful as I can to new authors. At the same time, I feel like I don't have a lot of relevant experience in the landscape as it stands right now. Like querying right now is completely different from querying even like 2 or 3 years ago. It's really wild how much things have changed in such a short amount of time. So my sort of go-to advice is really to just do your research. Even though we don't have the mentorship programs that we used to have, which is such a bummer, there's so many good resources out there. There's tons of podcasts, there's tons of websites. There's just so many places that you can go to find good information. And I think that that's really important. Like, I'm definitely somebody who the first time I queried, I had no idea what I was doing. And
that was me too.
Yeah, just like, and that was on me because I did not take the time to like even Google anything, which was a huge mistake. So definitely do that. And then my second piece of go-to advice is also getting harder these days, but it's really just to find a community of people who are in a similar spot on the publishing timeline that you are. And that's tough because I feel like Twitter used to be the place where you could go and do that, and that's not as reliable as it used to be. And I know like a lot of people aren't on Facebook anymore, so Facebook groups used to be a great place for that, but that's a little bit tougher. So I know that that's tricky, but I feel like having people that are in the same place as you are on your publishing journey is just like the most essential thing that you can have. And that doesn't change. Like, I still need that. Like, I still need my people that are, writing book 3 or publishing book 3. Like, it's so important to have people that like really get what you're going through.
Oh, I think so too. And yeah, I think it's harder to find that group if you're just starting out and you have nobody around you or in your day-to-day life that does this, right? Which most of us, I think, don't. Right. But I think you can with a little bit of work, right? Like, you might have to dig through hashtags and slide into somebody's DMs and try to make new friends, which we all know is really hard, but it's so helpful because I formed some really great connections on writing Twitter back in the day when it was Twitter. And it was the actual best like way to connect with people. And so I feel lucky that I connected there too. But I have made new friends on Facebook groups specifically for readers and different things. So I think that is definitely crucial advice, because while we don't have those mentorship programs, you can find mentors and colleagues that way that will really help you.
Yeah. And I have found in my experience that most writers are so willing to do whatever they can to help people that are coming up. And sometimes you have to put in a little work first. Like, sometimes you have to make a genuine connection with somebody before they're just going to offer you like tons of advice, which is totally fair. Yes. But if you are really looking for genuine connections, I have found everyone in the writing community to be so open and so responsive to that.
Oh, I think so. I think I've always preached this and I will continue. I feel like the writing community is like the best community. While, there's definitely moments where you're like, oh, I want to have the success that they're having. Like, everybody just wants to cheer you on and lift you up. And I think that's what's the best about it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So going back to Right on Cue, what is something you hope readers take away from this story?
So much of this one, I really just wrote because it was fun.
Which I love.
And I started writing this one also back in 2020. And it really became for me, I know I've talked a lot on other avenues about how hard writing Just My Type was. The sophomore slump is real. And it kicked my butt big time. So Right on Cue is kind of the book that I could turn to when I was sort of like losing my love for writing in those moments when writing Just My Type was so difficult. So for me, it's like, if all people take away from it is like, that was a fun book, like, I'm totally good with that. That's all I really need. Have a good time with it. It's got spicy scenes and banter and
Ooh,
celebrity
everything we
romance, which is, I'm just a trash human being for celebrity romance. Like, I love them all so much. So that's all I want you to take away from it. Have fun with this book because I had so much fun writing it.
Oh, I love that. I think that at its core is what we all want from our books, right? Like we just want people to just enjoy the read, and I think that's just enough to ask.
Yeah, that's all I need these days.
Yeah. So when you want to pick up a book and really enjoy reading it, who are some of your favorite authors to read?
Oh God, I have so many.
I know. Tell us.
Well, as most people these days, I am very much in my romantasy era.
Yes.
So I am doing a lot of romantasy reading. I am obsessed with the Trial of the Sun Queen series by Nisha Tooley, which is just, it's like kind of Hunger Games, kind of Bachelor, and it's fantastic.
Perfect.
So, like, I never do this, but I like emailed her publicist and was like, I need the arc of the next book. Like,
you're like, please let me use my influence to get me this book ahead of time.
I was like, whatever strings I have to pull, I don't care. I need it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, the third book of that series comes out soon, so that's one that I am looking at right now. And then I'm currently reading A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen, which comes out on February 27th and is so far just like totally blowing my mind. But like some contemporaries that I love, I just read Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. I love her books so much. They're just like so sweet and like heartfelt, and I don't know, it's like they're the kind of books that like you feel the emotions like as you are reading them. Love them. I'm obsessed with Jen Comfort. If you have not read a Jen Comfort book yet,
I haven't.
Please get on that. It's so good. So she has The Astronaut and the Star. She has Midnight Duet, which is probably one of my favorite books ever. It is a gender-swapped Phantom of the Opera retelling.
Oh, I love.
And it's perfection.
I love.
And then she also has a new book coming out called What is Love, which is like a Jeopardy romance.
What?
It is perfection. It is so good.
I love it.
So good. She's amazing. I want to be her when I grow up. And Nikki Payne, I'm obsessed with her too. She is fantastic. She does Jane Austen retellings that are like so smart and very steamy, and I'm obsessed with her too. I'm obsessed with everyone. I fangirl over other authors so much. I'm like, it's a little embarrassing.
I love to fangirl over other authors. I think it's the best. And we all need it. Like you need that person who's like, this is the best thing I've read ever.
Yes.
Who's just screaming about it in the corner. So tell me a little bit about your drafting process. How do you draft? Do you use a special software, or are you like a Word girl?
So I'm definitely a Word girl. And my drafting process is just chaos.
Perfect.
Even now, so right now I'm drafting, what will potentially be like my 6th or 7th book. I do not plot a single thing. I sit down and I write. I do not write in chapters. I do write linearly. That's a fun word.
Okay. That is a fun word.
But I don't break anything up into chapters until I have like a full draft.
Interesting.
Already. Which I can't remember who I told that to, and they were like, wait, what?
That sort of blows my mind a little bit, but I love it.
I found, I think maybe even during Pitch Wars, that I had a tendency to start every chapter with like a new day. Like she woke up in the morning and this was what was going on. And I think Suzanne Park, who was one of my Pitch Wars editors, was like, no, you don't want to do this. And so I found if I just like don't pay attention to that, so I just put like a little, like an extra space in between each like scene break. And then I go back when it's all done, and then I can figure out like how I want these chapters to play out. Um, yeah, most people are like, what are you doing?
I sort of want to try it though, because I sort of love that idea, because then you could, yeah, I mean, you're not so much paying attention to, I always get lost in like, okay, I need to format the chapter heading and all these different things.
Yes.
And so then you're just like, just focusing on writing
Just
the actual
writing.
story.
Yeah. So like my actual drafting process is really just like almost like a stream of consciousness. Like I just sit down and I just go for it. And that is what has worked for me. Like outlining, plotting ahead of time. I have tried so many times to be that kind of writer. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, this doesn't work for me. So I just need to accept that and embrace the chaos.
Embrace the chaos. You know what? There's something about the chaos that is what makes the writing so much more fun. Like for me, if I plan too much, like I do not write in a linear fashion. I will get a scene in my head that's like 3/4 of the way, and I'm going to write it down and I'm going to write through it until I get to that stopping point. But if I like plan it out too much, then I'm like, okay, well, I already know what happens. So like takes the excitement out of it to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes me have to edit a little bit more, but I fully own that because otherwise I won't get through the drafting process.
Yeah. I have found that because I used to like skip around and write out of order. But I found that it was like, so I was skipping to the scenes that I'm like, ooh, I really want to write this one. Mm-hmm. And then I would be done with all the scenes I really want to write. And all I had left was like,
bummer,
like the connective stuff. And I was like, well, this is boring. And I have no motivation to finish this.
Yeah.
So now I'm like,
I've definitely
I can't do that. I don't let myself skip ahead. I'm like, no, you got to write to that point.
Which, you know, helps your motivation, I'm sure, because you're like, okay, I got to get through this so I can get to the next exciting scene to write.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like we've answered this one a little bit already, but what do you most enjoy about writing? And then what's the most challenging thing about writing?
Well, I've made no secrets. I despise editing. Which is truly no shade to anyone on my team who works with me in the editing process. Like they deserve medals for putting up with my editing process. I will say that the more I work with my professional editors, the better I feel about editing.
That's good.
I think now that I've got like a little bit of a groove, like it doesn't feel as like pulling teeth as it used to. But I mean, drafting for me is just the most fun. Like, even when I am editing something, I'm usually also drafting something else because, like, I'm like, well, if I finish my editing, then I can draft. And
there
like,
you go.
Because drafting to me is just the part where you get to play and you get to be imaginative and you get to live in this world with these characters. And editing for me tends to be a lot more about. My editor last week, we were on a call and she was like, you are a layerer. Like we get the first draft done and then we have to go back in and like add the layers.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I don't like that part though.
You're like, make it so that doesn't have to happen.
Can't it just be one thing the whole time? Who needs layers?
Yes.
I do, obviously. But so I think I wouldn't say I enjoy. I am better about editing than I used to be, but I will always be a drafter first and foremost. Like that's where my heart is. That's the fun stuff.
Yeah, and if you can like trick your mind into, okay, I've got to edit this, but I'm also drafting this, I can trick my mind a little bit into being okay with having to edit a little bit more.
That helps me for sure.
Yeah. So when you're in this drafting process, and maybe more towards the beginning, like getting to know these characters that you're starting this journey with, what do you do to really get inside their heads and get to know them?
Yeah, it's like for me, I find my stories like play in my head like a movie almost. So a lot of times, because I do sort of have a schedule where I always have more ideas than I have time to write. I tend to like let the stories sort of like percolate in my brain for like quite some time before I actually sit down and start writing. And so I just am the kind of person where like when I have a moment of quiet, that's sort of just like where my brain goes. And I just start to see the story in my head. And I start to see specific scenes, and I start to like see conversations between usually the two main characters. And so they really sort of just like live rent free in my brain for quite some time before I like sit down and get anything on the page. And then I find that I really get to know them as I start writing. And usually for me, that comes a lot with dialogue. Like dialogue's one of my favorite things to write. And I think that it shows so much about like who a person is. Which also too, I'm definitely one of those people like in a coffee shop who's like totally eavesdropping on everybody around me, being like, what are they talking about? And what do they sound like? And like, I definitely am that person. To me, that like the way that a person speaks and the things that a character says and what they don't say are like so indicative of who they are as a person. So I like really, they live in my head, and then I sort of ground them in their dialogue.
Oh, I love it. And I think, how dare they live rent-free in your head for so long?
So rude.
Because they are just freeloaders. But I guess, it works out. It works out because you really do end up getting to know them. And I think there's something to be said, too, for once you're actually in the process of just maybe a little bit of trial and error and seeing, how they fit together. And I'm sure the dialogue is fun. And the banter, I'm excited to read the banter and write on cue with our stars here.
I love that. And I find like so often, like I never really understood writers who are like, sometimes the characters just like don't want to do what I say. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're in charge. But then now I have moments where I sit down and I'm fully expecting a scene to come out one way, and it just doesn't look anything like what was in my head, because I just start writing and they just like sort of do their own thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm just along for the ride.
I think sometimes too, when you say that to people who are not writers, they're like, you're the one writing the book. Yeah. Like, you're in control. It's like, if only it works that way. No, I am just the passage which they use to get their story down.
So true.
If you could be a character in one of your favorite books, it doesn't necessarily have to be yours, who would you want to be?
Well, I definitely had to think about this one because I was like, okay, I want to be somebody good. I think I would want to be one of the characters from Once More with Feeling by Alyssa Sussman. I am a Broadway stan. I'm obsessed with musical theater, and unfortunately was born with no musical talent whatsoever.
Dang it.
Like, I can dance, I'm an okay actor, but I cannot sing to save my life. So like being in a Broadway musical would be like my absolute dream. And then also, hooking up with the director of said musical, that sounds kind of awesome too. So
that sounds all kinds of awesome and forbidden and like wonderful.
Yes, here for all of that.
Oh, I love it. Well, I've just got a couple questions left for you. They're easy, fun, even though the last one I know doesn't seem very easy.
Okay.
I'd love to know, in maybe personal life and professional life, who have your like biggest supporters of your writing been?
In my professional life, my agent, Kimberly Whalen, is absolutely incredible. She has been with me since the beginning, and, she picked me out of the Pitch Wars slush pile. And I think what really makes her so special as an agent, many things, and I think this is an important question if you are a querying writer, is ask your potential agent, what happens if my first book doesn't sell? Because I think we all go into that like, oh my God, I have an agent, like next step, book deal, check. Right. And a lot of times that does not happen. And so I think knowing how your agent is going to react in that situation is really important. Are they going to stick with you? Are they going to drop you? Do they have a plan for, who they would then send your second book out to? Are they sending it to the same people, or are they sending it to different people? Like, how are we going to like rebrand and rebound and kind of move on from that? I think that that's really important. And she's just been so supportive. Like, I just throw so many wild ideas at her, and she's just like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Go for it.
But she also isn't afraid to be like, no. No.
I love it.
And I think you need that. Like, I definitely need somebody who can be like, this isn't the move. Take it down a notch. Personally, like, my husband is just the absolute best, and there is no way I would be writing books without him. When we met and started dating and got married, we were both teachers, with very stable jobs and incomes and health insurance and all of those wonderful things. And then, several years down the line, I was like, actually, I hate this. I don't want to do it anymore. And he was very much just like, okay, like, let's find something that's going to make you happy. And it's really hard. I'm very lucky because he's also a creative. He's a musician. So while he doesn't understand publishing details, he really gets the overarching feeling of like imposter syndrome and, just those like sort of creative life stresses that he feels right along with me. So having somebody who like really gets that is amazing.
That is amazing. Yeah. 'Cause it is hard to find, usually your spouse isn't really knowledgeable about the ins and outs of the publishing industry, which are weird and
totally
difficult, right? But yeah, that he's able to connect with you and support you with those struggles creatively is probably crucial.
Oh yeah.
And I love that your agent is able to like cheer you on and rein you back in when she's like,
yes.
okay, no, like, oh, we've gone too far.
Yeah, she's very good at that.
Good. Yeah, and I love your point too. There's so many things that authors should be asking agents on the call, but that is such a great one. Like, hey, are you with me for just this book? Or yeah, if this doesn't sell, are you with me as the author for something else too? Because I think, it's like, we think that signing with a literary agent is like the end all be all. You've made it. Nothing else bad is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still so much more on the other end, the other side of that,
Yeah. I remember actually on my first call with Kim, she said, she was like, I don't just love this book, I love your writing. And that like really made her stand out among the other agents that I talked to. I was like, oh, okay. So this is like, because obviously if you need to break up with your agent for whatever reason, like that happens. But the goal is to have somebody who's going to be with you for the long term.
Yeah. It's hard enough to sign with one agent. Why set yourself up to have to do it again and again, right? Like make sure you're signing with exactly who you want to sign with.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So my last question, I'd love to know what your favorite book is right now. Not of all time, just something you've read recently. You've already given us great titles to add to our list, but maybe just give us one more that you've read that you're like, this is really good.
Oh, okay. Why is this the hardest question to have to answer?
Not.
Hold on. I know. I like literally, I write down all of them. Oh, okay. Here's a good one. I am was last year obsessed with The Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And I just read the second one, Ruthless Vows. And it's so hard to nail a sequel to a book that was perfect. And I think she really nailed it. It's incredible. One of like the best fantasy series duologies I've ever read. Props to her.
What I loved about it was just how like fresh it felt in the way that it's fantasy, but it's not overtaken with like typical fantasy elements that we are seeing now, right? Like there was something, it's just so unique about it that I loved. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. 2 perfect books.
Definitely.
Makes
2 perfect books.
Love her and hate her at the same time.
One of those books where you're like, I wish I was this writer and could write this good.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely felt that many times throughout those books.
Yes. Well, we've got Right on Cue coming out on February 27th. You also have another book that you just announced, All I Want Is You, which is a Christmas-themed book that comes out in September. So can you tell us a little bit about that before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I'm super excited for this book. Like, I really came around like super fast because like last year, this is one of those things, I emailed my agent and I was like, hey, So I was like, in October of 2023, can I just like self-pub like a holiday novella? And she was like, well, you can't really do that without like permission from your publisher. So let me ask them what they want. And she came back and was like, well, they said no. And I was like, oh. And she's like, but they were like, what if you did one with them in, fall of 2024? And I was like, oh, okay, that actually is going to make my life a lot easier. So maybe I'll just do that. And so I sat down, I wrote the whole thing, I think in like 4 weeks.
Oh my goodness. I love that.
Here we are. It's really been like an express train publishing, because I think we like got the green light in like October of 2023.
Wow.
And then, so it's going to be like less than a year from writing the book into publishing, which is a little bit wild. So I went very meta. So it's about 2 romance writers, and they used to date. So they started dating when they were like very early on, where neither of them had an agent. They weren't published. And they ended up breaking up right around the time when they both got their book deals. She is sort of like a mid-list writer, and he basically becomes like kind of like Nicholas Sparks, where he's just like a huge name. Everybody knows him. Right. He's got all the movie deals. And none of his books end with an HEA, but they still get marketed as romance. And obviously that's a big bone of contention in the romance community. That. We don't love that. So they're with the same publisher, and so they have to go to this like publisher holiday party that's at this little like picturesque little inn in upstate New York, and the publisher asks her to present him with an award. And she basically can't say no, because she's a mid-list writer, and that's what you do. And then they get snowed in at the hotel, and they have to share a room, and there's only one bed.
I was just going to say, is there only one bed, Falon? There's got to just be one bed.
Of course there is. And it's dual POV, which I've never done before.
Oh, I like that.
So that was kind of fun. It really was like super cool, because they basically were just like, my publisher was just like, this is an experiment. Let's see how it goes. Like, maybe you'll do 2 books every year. Maybe you won't. Maybe we'll play around with this. And I was like, great, let's just kind of throw it at the wall and see what sticks. But it's been so much fun to work on it. I'm so excited.
Okay, I have one question now, just random, because it's dual POV. Do you have like 2 separate documents for each POV because you don't write with chapters, or how did you do that?
I didn't. So this is probably the most sort of organized one that has been during drafting, because I did just put like, her name is Jess and his name is Nick. So it would be like, oh, this is Jess's section, here's Nick's section. I think I did have a couple moments where I like moved some things around. And kind of shifted some timeline stuff a little bit. So yeah, that was probably the one that was easiest to go back and like do the chapters, because it was pretty much already separated for me.
Broken up a little easier for you. Well, I'm so excited. Yeah, maybe we'll get 2 books from you every year and just keep you really busy.
I mean,
that'd be awesome.
It can't be mad about that. So if that's how it shakes out, I'm good with it.
Yes, you can't be mad that your publisher just wants to publish more of your books.
Yeah, I was very excited to have the opportunity, and so thankful that my team was like, yeah, let's just do this. And I was like, okay, let's do it. We'll see what happens.
I love it. Yeah. That is so exciting. Well, you've got great things coming this year, and I can't wait to hear even more what we've got for next year. So thanks for letting me pick your brain again, and I'm really excited for Right on Cue, and all I want is you to come out.
Oh, thank you, and thank you so much for having me back.